I would never engage in any criminal conduct because I respect the law. And I was trying to uphold the law in my position. Right? And certainly I would not commit a murder because I have respect for human life. I don't believe that anybody should have their life cut short at the hands of another person.
Well, hey folks, when Robert Tellis returned to the stand for the third day of testimony, his actions appeared to be motivated by a need for damage control. After 2 days of testifying and trying to convince a jury that he didn't murder journalist Jeff Gehrman, this guy hoped for a do-over. So let's look at 7 or 8 reasons why I think this guy failed in his strategy. Hey, welcome to Profiling Evil, and thanks for liking and subscribing to our channel. Please make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe, and give us a thumbs up and share us with your friends. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to play the entire testimony from Tellis today while he's in court. He also goes by Teus, but he says he goes by either name. So, Teus or Tellis. But before you watch his video and the state's cross-examination, I want to lay out a few reasons why he might have chosen to take the stand as part of his rebuttal. I mean, it is clear that his testimony over the previous 2 days has been less than convincing and, in my opinion, not a bit inspiring. Now, it appears to me that Robert Tellis was motivated by a need to restore his credibility. So I'm going to make that number 1. The reason he got on the stand again during his rebuttal period was to try to restore his credibility and his trustworthiness. Now, to do this, he appears to have needed to kind of address his previous performance from the last couple of days. He acknowledges that the earlier testimony might have appeared inconsistent. It might have appeared vague or unconvincing. I don't know about you, but it was clearly unconvincing to me. And I rarely take this clear of a stand on things. Tellis tried to present himself as being a reliable and an honest individual. And I'd like to know your thoughts on that one. I hope you'll put your thoughts down below on all these comments that we're chatting about tonight. But by refining his statements, he was trying to rebuild any lost trust that he had with the jury. Perhaps the judge, his family, his wife, and of course, you and me in the public. Tellis also appeared to be endeavoring to kind of ensure the jury that his current testimony, what I have to say now, believe me now, aligns coherently with his previous accounts that he's given, kind of hoping to minimize the discrepancies that could have been exploited by the prosecution during that cross-examination yesterday, which was a brilliant cross-examination. Now, the second big thing that stood out to me was that Tellis appeared to be kind of clarifying and correcting previous statements that he made. He was, without doubt to me, it appeared that he was trying to eliminate misunderstandings that he might have left the jury with during his testimony yesterday and the day before. It appears that he might have been trying to eliminate misunderstandings that he might have left the jury with in his earlier testimony, where he contained these ambiguities, where he was trying to convince the jury of things, and he believes that they might have been misinterpreted by the jury. His goal is simple: it's to clarify these points, ensuring that his perspective, as he sees it corrected today, is accurately understood. He spent time trying to address inconsistencies in this case. In my opinion, he appeared to be trying to fix inconsistencies. He wanted a do-over. He had errors in his previous statements that he was trying to change or fix in order to prevent them from undermining his overall defense. Now, the third thing that stood out to me as a reason for Robert Tellis to take the stand in his murder trial yesterday was an attempt at strengthening his defense narrative. That means he's trying to somehow convince the jury that everybody is against him. And you'll catch when you listen today that he even suggests that the DA is in on this deal. So he's named law enforcement, previous businesses that he's worked with, other people, everybody but himself. And he keeps saying, I'm a good guy. I would have never done this. His goal is to get the jury to somehow believe that an unknown professional wearing a big goofy white hat, an orange vest, carrying a bag, and walking down the street with a very intriguing gait to his walk is responsible for Jeff Gehrman's death, not the guy who was injured by Gehrman's articles. Tellis is also trying to provide detailed information that might offer additional detail, context, or explanations, things that were previously admitted or, in his opinion, inadequately addressed, thereby reinforcing his version, even if it's his new version, of events. He tried highlighting his alibis and he tried to talk about the evidence in order to bolster his defense and challenge the prosecution's claim. And again, personally, I think he failed miserably, but I'd like to know your comments, and I hope you'll put them down below as we continue now. The fourth reason of why I believe Robert Tellis took the stand in his rebuttal was to mitigate the negative impressions that he feels people had about him. He probably heard what all of you were thinking and expressing yesterday. He wanted to express his cooperation with the legal process. At times he wanted to even show how humble he was when it was appropriate, but I think, again, it came across incredibly flat. He tried spending a lot of his time trying to humanize himself. He tried sharing personal experiences, motivations, or circumstances that provide insight into his character, hoping to evoke empathy and a more favorable view from those who are assessing his case, the jurors. And all of this, in my opinion, points to number 5. Reason number 5 why Robert Tellis chose to take the stand and testify as a rebuttal witness in his case. He has hopes of influencing the jury's perception of him by trying to kind of reestablish a connection with them through what he believes is his good demeanor, his honesty, his consistency. He thinks all these things make him more believable, more trustworthy, and more credible. So I want to know how you feel. He attempted to address the concerns that he believed the jury would have with his testimony earlier. He proactively addressed potential doubts they might have, concerns they have, all the while seeking to alleviate skepticism and foster a more favorable consideration of his innocence. Again, he was trying to make him feel sorry for him and side with him and think this guy has been set up. Well, somehow he was set up with all of that evidence, including DNA under the victim's fingernails. But make no mistake, his testimony was all about a strategic communication. I believe he carefully downplayed his weaknesses while emphasizing his strengths. Maybe that's not bad. Maybe it's something we all do. And clearly, as witnessed throughout his entire testimony, he was trying to express verbally and non-verbally his emotions, anxieties, his frustration, and even his defensiveness, and at times, his vulnerabilities. Again, these are all my observations, but it seems to me like this guy is kind of trying to align his actions and his beliefs to realign his statements in order to hopefully reduce the internal conflict that the jurors might be having, all the while trying to present himself as this better person to the court. In essence, Robert Tellis has returned to the stand for a third day to mitigate the impact of his earlier, less effective testimony was all about a goal of trying to restore credibility, clarify past statements that he thought didn't come across the way he wanted them to strengthen his position of, here, I'm the victim, that's my defense, I have an alibi, and his goal of positively influencing the jury's perceptions of him. All of that, very simply, has one goal in mind, and that's to improve his position in the eyes of the court and enhance his chances of getting a favorable outcome. Now, I hope you found these things interesting. I hope you found them educational. And I really want to know your thoughts on each one of them. And I hope you'll put them down below. But let's take some time now and watch his testimony without interruption. And I hope you'll take time to weigh in on what you see. I want to know whether you think he's improved his position with the jury, or did Robert Tellis just dig himself a deeper hole? Put your comments down below. And I hope you'll look for Profiling Evil on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And please sign up for Profiling Evil's audio podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. When the state and the defense rest their case, I think the jury's going to come back pretty darn quickly on this case, folks. And I'd like to know how you feel about it. Thanks for all of your support of Profiling Evil. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene.
In the defense?
Yes.
Okay, would you please raise your right hand so you can be sworn by the clerk?
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Robert Tejas. First name is Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T. Last name T-E-L-L-E-S, also pronounced Tellis.
Okay, and you may proceed with
Thank
the
you.
address.
So, good morning. I want to go over some of the items that were discussed during my cross-examination by Mr. Hamner. So I'll start, I'm just going to go point by point, so it sounds like I'm jumping around, I'm just hitting various things. So I want to talk about Zach Schilling first and why he was mad at me. But in order to do that, I've got to talk about the way that probate sales were done in my office at the time I was in leadership. So what we did was we went from, before I got there, from one realtor to a number of realtors. The prior public administrator, for some reason, had this relationship with this realtor, and he wanted to just have that guy do all the homes. There were a couple of problems with that. The first one was that oftentimes he couldn't handle the volume of renovations. And so oftentimes a lot of these homes would sit for months. Once in a while, they'd be in danger of foreclosure. But even if they weren't in danger of foreclosure, one of the issues that would occur was that these homes still had oftentimes mortgages going, right? So if we weren't turning those homes around in 6 months, 9 months, a year, all that time, the mortgage was taking a chunk out of the equity. So I wanted to make sure that we were turning these things around faster so more money would be in the hands of the family. I didn't think that, having a sole vendor who would get to it when he got to it was of benefit to the families. The other thing was that, of course, Clark County has this policy of trying to support as many small businesses as they can. And so I was trying to also mirror that too by opening this up. I certainly didn't like the idea of having one vendor for anything. So what was important, though, for these vendors was that they had access to capital. That's why I didn't have a larger pool as of yet. I had probably, any given time, maybe 5 or 6, just depended. But they had to have access to capital so that they could perform the renovations on the home. And the reason for that was that I wanted to make sure that we gave the families as much money as possible. When you sell a home as is, when it's in disrepair, often it has to be sold for less, right? And that gives flippers an opportunity to get the house, flip it, and then take the proceeds that would have gone to the family. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. I just wanted to put that money in the hands of the family instead. And in order to do that, we had this policy where, again, if you want our business, you had to go ahead and have the money to do the renovations on that house. You had to make it move-in ready. So any family could buy it and move right in. They wouldn't have to wait around for anybody else to do those renovations for them. And like I said, in the process, the families themselves got all the profit that might have gone to Flipper. Because of the capital demands of having to do this, two of our vendors had more properties than the others. One of them was Brian Horner, and the other was Bob McMaster. Now, as part of Bob McMaster's team, he had Zach Schilling. Bob was the capital man. He was very successful in his prior business. He was, I don't know the extent of his finances, but he didn't need to do the work. He was doing it really for the sake of keeping busy in retirement. But he was the money man, so he was the vendor, right? And Zach was the listing agent. I don't want to minimize what he did, but at the end of the day, those listings were going to that team because of Bob McMaster's capital. And in return for any of our vendors doing this work, instead of getting a 3% commission, they would get a 3.5% commission. And I got approval from the probate commissioner to pay our selling vendor 3.5% while still giving the buyer's agent 3%. So the total commission was 6.5%. And that was pretty much from the get-go during my administration. So at a certain point, for whatever reason, and again, both Brian and Bob were getting a good share of houses. And at some point, Zach decides that he is going to move his license from the broker where both he and Bob have hung their licenses. And he does it without telling Bob that he's going to do it. When Bob goes to move his license as well, the broker says, you cannot hang your license here unless you're going to have deals. Now, Bob enjoyed the renovation side, but obviously he still wanted to make a commission split for the work that he did. So he was not okay with not being able to hang his license, because you have to have, from what I understand, an active license hung somewhere in order to take that commission. So what he ended up doing was finding another real estate agent to assist him, to be the listing agent. Zach was very upset at Bob with this. And then it came to the point where when Zach asked me to give him a large number of houses, I couldn't, because he didn't have the access to the capital. When I would walk houses with him, he would try to minimize the importance of doing this renovation or that renovation, trying to just, again, minimize it so that he could try to get as many houses as he could without getting us what we needed to make these homes move-in ready. And so that wasn't acceptable to me. He still got homes, but he didn't get nearly as many homes as he did before. I think that's what upset him, beyond the fact that for some reason he was still hung up on that Ottawa thing that happened a year and a half before, which I don't know why that was a big deal for him, but he apparently mentioned it in his interview with the police that, that he had that. So, all right. So then I want to move to the supposed electronic evidence that was allegedly found in my phone, or phone image, or what have you. When I was arrested, the police leaked to the media that there was allegedly a shoe found in my house. There was allegedly a hat found in my house. They allegedly found the DNA. They did not leak that they allegedly found this electronic information on my phone or on some image, despite the fact that they allegedly had it at that point. So I can't explain why that was the case. Now, when it comes to these Google Maps shots, again, I'll reiterate that I did not know Mr. Gurman's address. So whoever plugged that in obviously did know the address. And there was a photo that we were shown that showed a video camera that was right across the way from Mr. Gurman's house. I do not engage in crime, but if I wanted to do something while not being caught on camera, and I knew there was a camera right across the way, I wouldn't do it. And which also brings up another point. If I knew there was a camera right across the way, I certainly would find another means of transportation besides using my own vehicle. Certainly, I didn't have, I wasn't rich, but I certainly, I did okay enough that I could rent a nondescript car, but I couldn't see myself as the kind of person who would be foolish enough to use my own vehicle to allegedly commit any kind of crime. And let's see here. So again, I don't, I did not know Mr. Gurman's address, so I don't know how anyone could say that I did these searches. And then I didn't know Mr. Gurman's schedule. I did not know Mr. Gurman's schedule to know that he would be home on that day at that particular time. Yet apparently the killer knew. I did not know the layout of Mr. Gurman's home, or what room he would be in, or what, I wouldn't know how to, as I said, lure Mr. Gurman out of his house. So, I didn't commit the murder. I don't know how the murderer knew that. I certainly did not. So the person who supposedly took these photos on August 15th, it seems knew that Mr. Gurman had a gray Honda from what we heard yesterday. Yet that same person, or allegedly I, decided to research Mr. Gurman's car anyway after the fact, when this person already knew that he had a gray Honda. That doesn't make any sense. And again, like I said, when you saw that the search term was for, again, Mr. Gurman's address to get to that information on the car, and I didn't know Mr. Gurman's address. Now, also, I did not buy a straw hat. I did not buy a construction shirt. I was fully investigated on my finances. I believe that if I had, that you would see evidence of that. When it came to the police search of my home, I was being detained at the police station. Now, I was not handcuffed. I was seemingly, because of the fact that I wasn't handcuffed during the entire interrogation, it would seem to me that the officers who, Gaddis and Jappy, who had me in that room, did not fear that I was a danger to them. So I was stuck in that room until the search was done. My wife was sequestered, along with my children, in a room during the search. She was under supervision by a police officer. And there was no body cam video from the search. I have seen numerous cases where body cam video was used during searches, yet it wasn't used during the search in my home. Then I want to speak to Detective Jappy's investigation. Again, Compass Realty had nearly 500 sales over the years, and Detective Jappy was investigating me for 5 months of alleged bribery. And again, the investigative file on me was 100 gigabytes for 5 months of alleged bribery, whereas for Compass Realty, over 500 sales around 500 sales for over years was only 3 gigabytes. Again, just a fraction of the information that was obtained on me. in that investigation. And I guess, and you'll have to excuse me, but I'm going to have to, I guess, speak to that relationship that I had with Roberta. During COVID, we got in a position where, again, because of the way that staffing worked, we spent a lot of time together, and we grew close. And we grew too close. And, and obviously we have choices, and we made a big mistake. It's something that we both regret. But the thing is that, if Mr. Gurman had not been killed, you would not be hearing about the fact that it happened, that we actually got into that relationship. Mr. Gurman, as I mentioned before, was not going to have he was never going to get any information about what happened between us. The county had redacted, or I should say omitted, anything that might have been personal in nature. So the notion that this was a motive to kill Mr. Gurman was false. He was not going to have any real material to make a more damaging article than he would have already done. So that's, and again, Roberta is a good person, and she loves her family very much, just as I love my family, and we just made a stupid mistake, but that doesn't mean that I killed Mr. Gurman. So, and I would never engage in any criminal conduct because I respect the law. And I was trying to uphold the law in my position. Right? And certainly I would not commit a murder because I have respect for human life. I don't believe that anybody should have their life cut short at the hands of another person. And so when it came to Compass Realty, I was not a lame duck. When you watch that video from the June 29th, 2022 hearing, you'll see that I was not acting like a lame duck. And you will see that it was after the primary loss. And I still kept fighting. And you'll see during that video that I raised very serious concerns. And these are very serious concerns beyond, again, the issue with the equity and the personal property. These are other things that, again, if you could watch the video, see how the judge was concerned. And again, I had just gotten the authority to do the things that Detective Jappy did not do. And frankly, I believe the public should demand an FBI investigation into Compass Realty. I also have one other item related to Compass Realty. Now, Adam Fenn donated to DA Wolfson in March of 2022. And if you'll recall, at the beginning of March of 2022, DA Wolfson had introduced me to Detective Jappy. Now, when Detective Jappy informed me of the fact that he had found that there was likely theft here, I also found out that DA Wolfson knew as well. And I found out through my conversations with DA Wolfson. Mr. Horvath, in the topmost envelope, the first 11 pages, I have a copy of Mr. Wolfson's campaign report from the first quarter of 2022. I'd like to ask that I please be allowed to have it marked and published.
Mr. Hamner is the state by stipulation.
And we'll submit it to the court.
Okay, if everybody's marked on
S3.
S3 will be admitted.
Okay, would you like me to approach you?
Yes, please. Thank you. And so this is an excerpt of Mr. Wolfson's campaign contribution report, the first one of 2022, taken from the Nevada Secretary of State's website by public download. And it shows And this is the fourth page, which again, you're only going to receive the fourth page of this. It states it's recorded that on March 26, 2022, Adam Fenn of 8782 Big Bluff Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada 89148, gave Stephen Wolfson $5,000 for his campaign. I am not crazy. I am not trying to avoid responsibility. This entire situation, well, I'll put it this way, that Compass Realty could move so much with money in this day and age in our city is incredible to me. I am innocent. And, you know, I'm not the kind of person who could brutally murder another man, do it with apparent experience and training, and then go to the gym, and then go pick up my children. I can't imagine being that type of person. I didn't kill Mr. German, and I'm innocent. Sir?
Have you concluded?
I have concluded.
Let me approach and get the, and we're moving for admission in case Weaver's already admitted this. Thank you.
Is that all your redirect?
Yes, Your
Okay,
Honor.
thank you very much. Any recross?
Yeah, briefly. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm okay. I just really want to cover some topics. So, you touched on the public records request that, Gammon wouldn't have heard about any, personal communications between you and Roberta because the records request wouldn't allow it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And therefore, that's why you wouldn't try to kill him, correct?
It certainly wouldn't be a motive.
Okay. But you would agree with me, you're not friends with Mr. Gammon, correct?
No, sir.
He didn't tell you, sit down with you and tell you how he's writing his stories, correct?
He did not.
He didn't share with you what information he collected, correct?
He did not.
And you're familiar that, journalists have things called sources, right?
Sure.
And they collect information from multiple places, correct?
Sure.
Okay. So all you know is that Mr. Gehrman had made one personal records request to your office, correct?
Correct.
You don't know what other information he had gathered as of August of 2022, correct?
That's correct.
Therefore, this idea that Gehrman wasn't going to be able to write any further article, you don't know that for a fact, isn't that right?
Well, I certainly thought, based on the records request, that he would not.
Right, because you're claiming you base it on that limited knowledge, but let's be clear. Journalists have multiple sources that they can collect information from, right?
Sure.
And you knew that as of August 8th, he did intend to want to seek information about you and Roberta, correct?
Right.
You had even told your best employee, Nicole, that I have a fear that these articles are going to jeopardize my ability to have employment in the future, correct?
I did.
You were concerned about even being able to work as an attorney in the city. Isn't that right?
I thought it crossed my mind, yes.
Not just crossed your mind, you memorialized it in a private text message to your best employee, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you additionally told her, I am, oh God, I wish I had it in front of me. Let me just see if I can recall this. You were worried about the article. Give me, you know what, can I have the Nicole off in the email? I don't want to get it wrong. Thank you. Now I remember. You told this jury that you claimed you weren't worried when you received the August 8th email from the county that Gehrman was looking into because you weren't worried because you knew none of the personal stuff was going out, correct?
Yes.
But isn't it true just a couple hours later you're writing Nicole saying the exact opposite?
No.
Okay. You don't know, We'll let everyone check the notes on that. But
Sure.
isn't it true, the message that you send to Nicole post-dates the email you received from the county?
Yes, but it was talking about pre-existing articles.
Sure.
And the damage that was done.
That's what you claim.
It's what I claim, yes.
Okay. So, bottom line is, you were so concerned about the articles, you're writing your best employee about it, correct?
I did not reach out to her to do it.
And then 4 days later, there's 130 images mapping out Mr. Kerman's neighborhood, correct?
Not for me, but yes.
And then on the 15th, there's this amateurish surveillance going on, correct?
Objection is characterization as amateur.
I'm sorry, well, I'll rephrase. There's the Popeye surveillance happening, correct?
Again, I didn't do it, but yes.
Okay, and then just after that, we have, as you fully admitted, there are pictures from your desk of all of Mr. Gehrman's personally identifying information in your phone, correct?
And I don't know that to be the case. Again, it
all
could
that-
have been placed there on an image. It
Sure,
wasn't
but you
necessarily on the
fully
phone.
admitted, like, that's my computer, that's my desk. I mean, you told us
It-
that yesterday, right?
It appears, the photo appears to have my desk, yes.
No, you said, that's my desk. You didn't say it appears, you said, that's my desk.
I
Do
thought
you
it
remember?
yesterday, but sure, again,
Thank
same
you.
thing.
And that just happens to be the same month that your expert witness looked into your phone and saw you turned off all your location data.
I object not as to that month, it appeared most of the year
And-
that location was not there. So that
Right, and-
mischaracterizes Mr. Guerrero's testimony.
Sure. Isn't there a slide from August 1st to August 31st of 2022 talking about location data from your phone?
Yes,
And it was a blank slate, right?
and I will get to that in my redirect.
No, you gotta get to it now. Isn't it
But-
true
give
it
me
was a
one
blank
moment, please.
slate?
Can you give me one moment, just so I can write,
Just a minute, just a minute.
please? And, okay, so can you give me the
Sir.
question? Okay, hold on
Isn't
just a
it
moment,
tr-
please. Just
Isn't
one
it
moment,
true
please.
that there is a slide produced by your expert that's entitled August 1st through August 31st, 2022, and it literally says no location data. Do you remember that slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that existed, correct?
I don't know that it did, because I didn't take that photo.
No, just your expert did.
Are we talking about the photo or the
Expert
slide?
did not take the photo, so again,
Was it prepared?
Right,
Who
your
prepared
expert, your expert introduced it on his direct examination. Do you remember that?
I don't know if you're talking about the slide or the photo, sir. I'm trying to get
I'm
clarification.
talking about the slide.
Okay.
Your expert analyzed your location data for the month of August. Do you remember him talking about that on direct?
I said that earlier, yes.
Do you remember him talking about it on cross?
I don't, but I remember him talking about it.
And you remember seeing the slide, and he showed an image showing that there is not 1 ounce of location data on your phone for the month before Mr. Gehrman is killed. Do you remember him saying that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then the second point is, so let's talk about the donation. So Adam Fenn donated $5,000 to Wolfson's campaign, correct?
Yes.
It came from a campaign report in the first quarter, is that correct?
Yes.
So that would be the first 3 months of the year, correct?
Yes.
So sometime between January to March is this $5,000 donation, correct?
Correct.
That's 2 months prior to the Gehrman articles, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so
And it's also
So
a
not-
few weeks after the introduction maybe between me and Wilson and Jappy.
So you say Compass could move so much money in this day and age, it's incredible to me, correct?
Right.
And what we've heard from you is it's a whopping $15,000.
So what I have found in doing my research on Mr. Wilson's campaign reports is that he's got people who donate to him year over year.
Okay.
So basically it's a subscription for a get out of jail free
So
card.
now the DA's in on it too.
I'm just telling you what I found when I've researched, and you can look at the Nevada Secretary of State's website to do the research yourself.
Well, I've got you
It's-
here, sir, so I want to ask you, is DA Stephen Wilson in on the conspiracy to have Jeff Gehrman murdered? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know about that, but I certainly know he turned a blind eye toward crime.
So answer my question, yes or no?
I don't know.
Okay. So but you can't rule it out, right?
Can you rule it out?
It doesn't matter whether I can rule it out. I'm not the one under oath.
I can't rule it out.
Okay, so you can't rule out Rita, you can't rule out Wolfson, you can't rule out Cliff Maugg, you can't rule out the DNA people, you can't rule out anonymous patrol officers. Am I catching this all right? You can't rule out Adam Fenn, anyone from Compass, right? How about Cindy Sauerland? Is she part of this too?
I don't know. I can't rule it out.
Okay. So it's all just one big conspiracy, correct?
No, sir, I didn't say that they were all involved. I just said I can't rule out who and who is not involved.
But at the end of the day, you're just the victim in this whole thing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Diaz?
Yes, and again, when it comes to these photos and the notion that there was no location information on them, I didn't take the photos. So whether they had location information on them or not, you know, I'm not surprised they don't have any location information on them. So this point that somehow that shows I'm guilty is just, I don't know, it still makes no sense to me. And then when it comes again to Mr. Wolfson, I did do that research into him, and I did find that around the time that Paris Hilton had picked up charges here in Las Vegas, that
Sustained.
I think he opened the door.
Objection is sustained.
All right. So I'm sure that someone will be doing the homework on that. But
And
I
that
think
comment
that's,
is stricken from the record.
and so thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further for myself.